I'm Emily Mashak, and you are listening to Tuned Into NoCo, Town Square Media's show that lets you know what matters in NoCo. I'm talking today with Ann Hutchison, the Executive VP at the Fort Collins Area Chamber of Commerce, and SeonAh Kendall, the City of Fort Collins Senior Economic Manager, about the state of Fort Collins amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and under the Safer at Home order. So thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, excited to have the conversation.
Now, we've been under the Safer at Home order for a while now, but I think a lot of people in Fort Collins are still confused as to where they can go, what they can do. So can you just give a blanket clarification over what the Safer at Home order means for Fort Collins in this moment?
So I can start and then SeonAh can jump on in. I think it's important to remember that we have orders from the state level, we have orders at the county level, and then we do have an order at our local level, the City of Fort Collins. And when people are concerned about which order takes precedent, my recommendation is just to remember that whatever part of the order is the most restrictive, that's the one that we're under. So we might be under part of the county order that's more restrictive than what the state says, but we also might be under some specifics from the City of Fort Collins if they're more restrictive than the other parts of the system. So I appreciate that it's confusing to everyone and we are trying to swim our way through to understand. But in general, we're basically under the orders from the state that have been replicated at the county level. So our stay-at-home order ended on Sunday, April 26th. And we then moved into Safer at Home on Monday, April 27th. Safer at Home meant that we could begin to reopen our economy. So we could actually begin to open offices under some very specific guidelines. Those include only having half of your staff come back, limiting the number of people that can be in any space at one time to 10 or less, still maintaining that strong social distancing, so still maintaining at least 6 feet among participants. Then on May 1st, the opening expanded even more. So retail and non-essential businesses as well as personal services could open. So your hairstylist can now open, again, if they follow some very specific requirements that protect you and protect them. The same with retail. So until May 1st, retail had a week where they could do some curbside pickup. Starting on May 1st, they could actually open their doors to allow some people in a very limited capacity. And that's been exciting. I think the biggest thing over all of that then is this concept of people wearing face coverings so that they're not only protecting themselves, but they're protecting others. And that's certainly been an area of confusion. But I think at the end of the day, the easiest answer is if you're going outside of your home, put on some sort of face covering, whether that's a mask that you've made at home, it's a bandana, it's a buff, it's a disposable mask that maybe you had left over from having your teeth cleaned, but somehow putting something over your face just to make sure that you're not projecting any kind of fluids into the environment that could then be picked up by others. So that's kind of the broad picture. But again, I'll be quiet and let SeonAh share some additional thoughts.
Yeah, I would say Ann did a great job in terms of the overview of what is going on, what can be open. We've really been having a conversation around how do we help Fort Collins businesses really reopen strong and reopen safe. There are still some restrictions, such as with dine-in, that is still not allowed. However, we are really encouraging curbside and takeout, even when dine-in does get to open, to be able to have that additional opportunity for the dine-in, the curbside pickup offering. same thing, I would say personal service is the one that falls under the 10 or less within the service area, and that includes employees. So what we've really been encouraging folks is to stay up on either the county's website and or the state's, right? Because each of them have kind of nuances, and each county has their own nuances. And then regarding the face coverings, council did make some changes last Tuesday to really empower the businesses to say that those face coverings are very important, but however, the businesses have the option to really enforce those. So just a couple of nuances there, but happy to answer any other additional questions. Again, our role, I think, with the chamber is really to partner and help our businesses reopen strong and reopen safe so that we don't have to do any of these clawbacks and closings again. And we can do this in the safest manner possible while still helping our community really generate the revenue it needs to, as well as the new normal.
Emily, I'll throw in just a couple of businesses that are still unable to open, and they will be our very last businesses that are opening. And that includes any of our large music venues, any of our large sporting venues, bars, anything that would result in more than 10 people at this point being together in a small space for an extended amount of time. Those are really going to be those opportunities that unfortunately will be the very last to reopen. And as my friends know, I am a huge music and sporting fan, so I am definitely going through withdrawals, and I'm wishing that those could open. But I also appreciate the decisions that our top leadership is making in the state relative to keeping us all safe so that we can enjoy those things even more fully soon. And that's hard and it's tough on those businesses, but that is the reality that faces us.
I know you have started a resource for local businesses that are looking to reopen that can guide them along as to how they should do that, called ftcollins.youtube. Would you be able to explain what that is and how it works?
Yeah, I'll have SeonAh explain Fort Collins. Really, there's kind of 3 companion sites that we feel are really important during this recovery, as well as our extended phase of dealing with the crisis. There's NoCoRecovers.com. That's really all the information you could ever wish to find relative to the crisis, how to survive during the crisis, what are the resources available during the crisis. Then we also have, which was just launched last week, NoCoSafetySupply.com, and that's a marketplace for people if they have products that can help with PPE, sanitation, etc. So those vendors can connect with people that are searching for those products. And again, that's NoCoSafetySupply.com that just launched last week. And then our third companion site is for Fort Collins. And I'll have SeonAh talk a little bit about what we're trying to do there.
Yeah, I would say early on in the conversation, a lot of conversations around how do we get folks to shop local, to support local. And we were very sensitive to the fact that there are a lot of folks who have lost their jobs. And so how do we help really re-engage everyone in supporting our community as a whole, which became the forfortcollins.com. So the site is very fun and unique in that we've got resources for the community member who wants to evangelize their local shop that they just love and wants to promote. And then it's also got a site for the businesses. So very similar to American Express's Shop Small Saturday, where it's got a social media content builder. I would have to say our amazing local partner, Old Town Media, helped us really envision what we had seen in other sites and really helped us develop it for this site. And the thought was around how do we help local businesses who might not have those marketing dollars be able to create this buzz and social media around them. And then ultimately it will help create consumer confidence as well, getting people back into the stores and restaurants and to evangelize. What's so unique about Fort Collins? And I think that's the piece, right? We really wanted to show and showcase Fort Collins and their uniqueness. I think about how many businesses have given back to our community during this time, even though they have had to shut their doors. And to be able to showcase those stories have been a really huge, impactful aspect to it of how do we help support everybody in our community, and businesses are our community, and really kind of highlighting that piece of it. Some fun, unique social media content builders, and also, how do you as a consumer go back and re-engage in a safe manner? And I think that's really important because no one's really given us a playbook on how to do this. And so the ftcollins.com has been helpful in that. And, we launched, 2 weeks ago? And I would say it's been a huge brain trust of the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Business Association, Visit Fort Collins, Midtown, and the city. It's not owned by one entity. It is an organization-driven site. So if you have stories that you want us to highlight or saying, hey, this would be great for the site, let us know that too. Because again, it's not one that we individually own, it's a community site. And can you think of anything else I might have forgot on that one?
No, it's just exciting how all three of these sites really support each other with different messages, but are all intertwined. And again, we're still promoting the fact that NoCo Recovers is really your one-stop shop. You can find more information about Fort Collins on NoCo Recovers. You can find information about NoCo Safety Supply on NoCo Recovers. So we're still encouraging people to take advantage of that. NoCo Recovers site really is that one-stop shop for all kinds of resources to help business and citizens survive through this crisis.
That is great. It's so awesome that we have so many resources for our community. I know they are so easy to find on those websites, but right here now, would you be able to give a quick overview of how businesses can safely reopen? And as you mentioned, SeonAh, how consumers can safely engage with these businesses again?
So there are a number of recommendations on all of these sites. Personally, I think it boils down to wash your hands, which we've been talking about since the very, very beginning of this. Whether you're a consumer or you're a business, wash your hands. It's wiping down surfaces that have a lot of contact, whether that's physical contact with your body or could be in contact with any kind of a droplet that comes from your body. So being very, very conscious of cleaning those surfaces, again, whether you're a consumer trying to be proactive in that space or you're a business being proactive in that space. And then it is this social distancing. So if this weekend I ended up going to one of our local plant supply stores, and there were a lot of people there. And so it was me as a consumer being very conscious of what steps am I taking to maintain that distance, as well as looking for those cues that the business was giving me about those spaces, whether it's the marking on the ground to make sure that as I'm standing in a line, I've got the right distance. Signage on doors. I will say that's one thing that I think is really very helpful for business, to make sure to put signs on doors to remind people about some of the expectations. A number of the businesses that I visited this weekend did not have signs, and they are super easy to download either from the county site or from the City of Fort Collins site, just to encourage their customers to make smart choices, but as well to help them make those smart choices. But for me, it's really those three things: distance, wiping high-touch surfaces, and then making sure to be really thoughtful.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think it is a multi-pronged approach, right? It shouldn't just be open the door and go type. Our family has kind of a plan, right? So I also went to the nursery this weekend, right? And so we looked online at which stores had the curbside pickup, right? So we ended up ordering from Bath Nursery, being able to pre-order all of our items and then just go in. They were already paid for and pick them up and leave. And so it reduced our exposure. So I think it really is this multi-pronged approach of what's your plan and what does the business have in their plan. And what I love is that the businesses that have an online presence have shared what they have on their sites. And I would say take advantage of some really cool local things that are unique to our community. We use NoCo Nosh this weekend, to have our Mother's Day meal, so that we could support not only the local delivery, but also the local restaurants and really just have a great, fun, unique way of doing things. But like anything, you don't just walk out anymore, right, and just make a decision. So pre-planning is going to be a big piece of that. I would say the state as well as the county has really good kind of, here's some high-level guidance on how to reopen if you have not yet reopened. But ultimately, it'll be the business's decision. Can I make a profit? Can I do this in the most safe manner that will work for my customers? And I think those are really important things. I've heard some businesses that say, we're not going to open until this piece has been able to be solved, because we need to really think about what it's doing to our consumers. And so I think that is one of the most thoughtful things that businesses can do, is walk through that plan and understand what they need to do before they have their doors open, just as we do when we leave our homes.
Right. I know that this safer at home order has made a lot of obvious changes. We know that businesses are starting to reopen. We've had a little bit more freedom, but from a perspective at the city level, how have you seen it change Fort Collins? How have we improved since April?
Wow, let's see. In terms of improvement, I would say a lot of regional collaboration and connections has been a huge conversation piece, right? Knowing that we can't do it alone, that someone might have a great innovative idea, but if it's not shared, how can we share that best practice? And I think that's businesses and community members and, economic developers as well, right? I think that's been probably the biggest kind of improvement, is how do we collaborate? How do we help and rise the community versus just each other and only ourselves? So that's been probably the biggest one. The face covering, I think, is always going to be a controversial conversation. However, one where I think it's become the norm, right? It's kind of like, oh, if you're not wearing a face covering, not shaming, and just trying to understand what is going on and why, that everyone has a story behind it. And I think those are kind of the important pieces that this community has done well. And what do you think?
Yeah, I think SeonAh hit it right on the head relative to this sense of community that I think in some ways was almost unexpected. I had the tremendous pleasure of being on an industry call last week with our construction and our trade sector partnership. We had over 100 folks that are in that industry. Number one, no doubt that the way that they are doing business has changed as they work hard to make sure that they keep their staff healthy, but as well keep their industry alive. And this sense of caring and community and sharing, even though in normal circumstances, many of these folks are competitors. In that call alone, they were expressing this sense of community and how do I help my neighbor be successful in this time while I'm also successful? There's enough for all of us. And how can we do that? I think that's been very special. It's unfortunate that something like this had to happen in order to encourage that. But how exciting if we could keep that sense of community going even after we recover from this incredible impacting downturn. That would be amazing. And I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we will see that across a number of industries. And again, sharing best practices with each other helps all of us continue to be safe, but also helps our community be better.
I love that. That's inspiring to hear. And I agree. I think the sense of community is one of the most important things that we can all hold on to, especially during times like these. What else would either of you like our listeners to know right now?
I just would encourage all of our citizens to keep in mind that our economy is a very diverse and wide-reaching tool. I think it's awfully easy to think we individually have a lot of the answers, but it is going to take our full community to survive this. And just want to encourage people to continue to be thoughtful in that space and to have a sense of how can I help versus how can I point fingers and tear apart. This is going to be a long haul, and it's going to happen in fits and starts, and we're going to make some mistakes as a larger community, but I do believe we can get to a place where we have a vital community and a vital economy living hand in hand, and I'm excited for that time and just want to say thank you, citizens, for being so thoughtful as we work our way through this, and we all want to get back there.
This is going to be a long haul, and to allow for some grace and space, I think. As I mentioned before, I mean, you as an individual have to have a plan, just as the businesses have to have a plan and organizations have to have a plan. But that, this is the time that we are really seeing people really pull together and really look at how do we raise everybody. And whether that's our school district, to our nonprofits, to our businesses, to our residents, to even the natural spaces that we live in. And I think that's a huge piece for us is, again, this is a long haul, and let's have some grace and space and keep doing what you're doing and trying to help our community.
Thank you both so much, ladies, for taking the time to talk to me. It was helpful just for me to hear, and I know our listeners will appreciate it just as much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
Again, that was Ann Hutchison, the Executive VP at the Fort Collins Area Chamber of Commerce, and SeonAh Kendall, the City of Fort Collins Senior Economic Manager. To learn more about how to handle your business or yourself amidst the pandemic under Safer at Home, visit forfortcollins.com.